a little bit later on in the presentation. And actually, they've been kind enough to share a little bit about their story, their deployment, and even their network in the Meraki dashboard with us here today. We have some great content lined up for the next hour, so let's have a look at what's ahead by sharing the agenda. We'll kick it off with a quick introduction to Cisco Meraki and to cloud networking for those of you who aren't so familiar with those. But then we'll spend the bulk of our time actually talk to folks at the Rock Church and Academy and actually going through their network, their needs, their deployment. We'll even have a chance to go into some specifics of the configuration. And if you have questions throughout the presentation and when we're talking with them, it would be fantastic if you enter those questions into the Q&A area of GoToWebinar. And we will be answering some of those questions throughout the presentation via the chat. And also, if we have a little bit of time, we can save some at the end for the Q&A section. And we will also have an opportunity to go into a live demo of some of their networks. And then we'll wrap it up with a quick look at the overall Cisco Meraki portfolio and the products. And then, as I mentioned, if we have some time, we can have a little bit further discussion through Q&A. Now, before we start off with the introduction, just one note that's pretty exciting, and that's that we are offering a free access point to the qualified IT professionals that are here on the line today. And this is a Cisco Meraki 802.11n AP, similar to the ones that you see there on the screen. It comes with a 3-year cloud management license, and it's totally yours to keep. You can take it home. You can get it up and running in about 5 or 10 minutes. It's very, very straightforward. And then you'll have the full experience of what cloud managed networking is really like right in your own hands. We do ask that you please give us a quick telephone call so that we can confirm the shipping information that we have on file for you. And if you can't remember who you're supposed to call, just go ahead and look for the reminder email that was sent before the start of this webinar, and there you'll find the contact information for your Cisco Meraki rep. Okay, so with that, let's start off with an introduction to Cisco Meraki and to cloud networking. Cisco Meraki is a completely cloud-managed networking solution that includes Wi-Fi switching, security, and MDM, all of which are centrally managed over the web. And in fact, all of those parts of the solution are designed and built from the ground up for cloud management. And the design and delivery and operation of that whole system is done by the Cisco Meraki team. And when I say that they're built from the ground up for cloud management, that really means that the entire solution, the hardware, the software, the cloud aspects, the data center, the architecture, all of that is very tightly integrated so that you as a network or IT administrator have a very feature-rich yet easy-to-use experience right out of the box. We are the leaders in cloud-managed networking. There are tens of thousands of customers that have deployed the solution across all kinds of industries, and we've recently seen tremendous growth, in fact, over 100% annual growth. We've been operating in the cloud since 2006, and over those years have been recognized not only by those customers, but also by outside organizations for our vision, our product leadership, and our innovation. For example, through CRN, InfoWorld, and Gartner with their Magic Quadrant for wired and wireless LAN infrastructure. Besides those tens of thousands of customers, we have also had great success in K-12 campuses. And of course, we're going to be featuring the Rock Church and Academy today, and that'll be the focus of today's discussion. And also, as you see here, there are many other and schools that have deployed the Meraki solution. And these are just really a selection of the hundreds of campuses that have selected Meraki. And if you'd like to find out more or kind of look through what other types of schools and districts have deployed Meraki, feel free to go on our website also. Go to meraki.cisco.com, and there you can read the deployment stories for all kinds of K-12 organizations that have deployed Meraki. Now, I'm sure everyone on the line is familiar with the cloud, and it's especially popular in K-12 and IT. And you might be wondering how it is that the cloud applies to networking, and what do we mean by cloud networking? Well, as we've built out and expanded the cloud-managed networking solution over the past several years, we've noticed some significant trends that have, especially recently, brought some new challenges to the IT department. And these have to do with the hundreds of millions of mobile devices, whether it's delivered and owned by the school itself, or whether it's actually brought in by the students or the teachers. We have all kinds of new applications that are focused on learning that really rely on the network and on IT to deliver that enhanced education experience. And we have video and rich media that aren't necessarily new, but actually continue to creep up in terms of usage and bandwidth impact. And then there are also more and more popular types of applications like video conferencing and collaboration tools that take advantage of high definition, rich video and audio to enhance the learning experience. And we've designed and enhanced the product and the solution to really give IT teams the tools they need to address these challenges and do that in a very manageable and easy to use and scalable way. So that's what we mean by taking some of the benefits of the cloud to networking, is really how do you take some of these things that we know work very well in IT in general when we use the cloud, and how do we bring them to the network and the network environment. It'll be very useful just to briefly go over the cloud networking architecture, especially when to the live demo. And here is just a high-level overview of what that architecture looks like. It really starts off with high-capacity hardware like APs or switches that are deployed on-site in the school, and they're connected to the Cisco Meraki cloud, and they do that through a lightweight and secure connection. And that's true if you have one school or if you have a district with hundreds of schools, with many buildings, what have you. That connectivity enables the IT department to have centralized management and centralized visibility of the network in all the networks in all the schools. And we've designed and built out the infrastructure in this way so that we're taking some of these key benefits of the cloud and applying them to networking. Now, there are a few aspects of the architecture that I'd just like to point out because they really bring home some of these benefits of the cloud. One is that no user traffic passes through the cloud. You'll see that that's the first bullet there under security. And that's because the link that's shown on the left in blue is only used for management and configuration data, not for the user end user's traffic. And that, along with some other pretty robust security tools, things like two-factor authentication, role-based administration, a fully searchable and auditable change management log, and a whole host of others, enable a very secure deployment, and it's even appropriate for secure institutions or environments. There's also another aspect of the cloud that really enables the reliability that we need in education networks. And that's that the network still continues to work even if that connection to the cloud is interrupted. So for example, if that link is disconnected, the one in blue on the left, then users will still be able to get on the Wi-Fi, be able to use printers, they'll still be able to use the classroom apps, whether they're locally hosted or whether they're available somewhere from the internet. And we didn't go into the details in the previous slide, but the cloud architecture does include multiple redundant data centers that are highly available with distribution around the world. They include things like data replication, automatic data syncing, backups, and so on. And that, along with a very high uptime SLA, and the fact that the network still works even if that connection to the cloud is interrupted, make for a ultra-reliable networking deployment that still takes advantage of these benefits of the cloud. And last but definitely not least is scalability. And this really builds on kind of some of the very easy to use things that we have thought to implement into the solution to address some of these challenges we talked about before. In particular, well, if you are expanding an existing network or deploying an entire new network, say at a new building or a new school, when you deploy the, say, Meraki APs, in the case of a wireless network, you can mount them in the ceiling or mount them on the wall. Then you'll connect them to the local infrastructure, say to the switching infrastructure, and turn them on. And when they are turned on, They automatically connect to the cloud. They identify themselves by their serial number, and the cloud recognizes them as belonging to you, and then they download the appropriate network configuration. If you're expanding your network, they'll simply download the configuration that already exists for your network and apply the same traffic shaping policies, firewall rules, content filtering, SSIDs, and so on, so that you don't have to manually provision each new access point. And that makes it very, very quick and easy to add additional capacity as your network bandwidth and capacity needs grow. If you have more questions or are curious just to find out more about things like the data centers and the architecture, cloud reliability and security, and so on, we do have more information available at that link below, meraki.cisco.com/trust. So that's a quick introduction to the Cisco Meraki solution and to cloud networking. We really now want to focus on the Rock Church and Academy, and we're super fortunate to have a few folks on the line from the Rock Church and Academy, in particular Brian, Chris, and Tony. And the first thing I'd like to do is just say to Brian and Chris and Tony, thank you very much for spending some time out of your busy schedule with us. And if you don't mind introducing yourselves, Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Brian Meyers. I'm the director here at the Rock Church and the Academy, and we'll have with me Chris Metter.
Okay. My name is Chris, and yeah, we get to work really closely with Meraki equipment.
Yeah, we're really pleased with it. Tony's en route. He's in traffic. We love the Southern California traffic, so we'll be here shortly. Just a brief word about Meraki is coming from. We kind of inherited a legacy network of mystery, and Meraki has really allowed us to expose what it is that we're, to reorganize and reconfigure this to a really comprehensive and enterprise level network that just benefits everybody, especially across multiple sites.
Great, thank you very much, Brian and Chris, and hope Tony doesn't get stuck too much in traffic. Why don't we start off with just by giving everyone an overview of the Rock Church and Academy in terms of kind of the physical deployment and the staff and the students and so on.
Sure. So the church is based here in Point Loma, and we have a congregation of about 14,000, plus or minus a few hundred. The Academy is a K through 12 school, of course. What's interesting is that the Church and Academy is on some property that used to be the Naval Training Center in San Diego. So they've redone the whole area. It's more of a tourist, retail, dining, restaurant area now. So it's a real nice place to work and live. What else can I tell you? We have 5 campuses total. We're spread across the county, and we're currently, our strategy is to go to about 10 remote sites. So we're about halfway there. By 2020, we're trying to get to a total of 10 sites. So this really sets us up for remote management is the key, of course, because we're not a real tiny group. We've grown recently within the last 6 or 8 months to about just a total of 6. We were just a total of 3 on this team, including myself. So there's a lot of scrambling. Now there's a lot less scrambling, and a large part of that is due to we can see what's what and where it is through the Meraki technology. So it was just a match made in heaven. I mean, no pun intended from the church, but it really was. And as we continue to move forward and grow and expand, we the analytics and data and the management tools that are available to us are a very integral part of the decisions we make and the planning that we do. We're excited to come to work and use what Meraki has for us. So the support is fantastic. Rely on those guys continually, which we don't like to admit because we like to be as self-sufficient as possible. But I mean, just the training that's available. When we get to the point where we can't take it to the next level, the support is always there. The engineers are on point. They do a good follow-up, and they really help us to innovate, which this really speaks to the spirit of the way we run the show here from our IT infrastructure team.
Super. Yeah, it's great. And looks like you have, roughly adding up some numbers here, about 1,000 people who, between the staff for IT and the faculty and students and, sorry, volunteers and interns and regular staff, looks like over 1,000. And then, as you mentioned, the traffic, I guess remote management is definitely a way to save quite a bit of time so that you don't have to actually go out to each place and fight with the traffic when you don't need to. So in terms of those, the kind of the overall footprint of networking, can you talk a little bit about what you've deployed across those sites and buildings?
Sure, we rely primarily on the MS42P. That's really the heart of the switching environment for us. We do have an MX400 here at Point Loma, which kind of acts as our headquarters, and we're connected to each site through a Metro E point-to-point. Usually it's 100 meg for the major campuses. And so we have a thrift store. We have another, I guess it's like a mini school. It's like a mission school. Yeah. So the firewall here acts as the firewall for all sites with a point-to-point. So we're looking at a way to just continue that moving forward. We have extensive Wi-Fi across all the sites, and we're looking to expand. Especially right now, we have a major project with a partner of ours. Our sanctuary holds 3,500 people, so we're going to see some data and some recommendations on how to populate that arena auditorium sanctuary with full coverage for 3,500 clients. So that's kind of interesting.
Actually, on the next slide, we have a little bit more detail about some of the specific devices. So you have, for example, an MX400. That's a security appliance that is filtering the traffic for, I guess, all the sites.
That's correct.
And then we see a little bit more information about the auditorium. And when you mentioned a partner, that I assume that refers to someone who's going to be helping you do a site survey and kind of figuring out where to deploy and what specific antennas to use and things like that.
Exactly.
Great. Yeah, that looks like a pretty impressive facility there in that photo on the right. In terms of how you've allowed people to get on, can you describe a little bit about your approach to authentication? And there was a note about security, and of course, just having the MX400 be the filter for all the internet content immediately points that you to your focus on security in general. How about for authenticating just in general, whether it's staff or school-owned devices or user-owned devices?
Well, we've kind of we started off as really a Windows environment, and over the last, I'd say, 4 years, we've transitioned away almost completely. So the only real Windows devices that remain are down in the academy, and some support devices that we use for check-in or things like that. So that was all through Active Directory and things like that. So what we've done recently through the Wi-Fi is we were using like a password. That's not really efficient. So I'm going to pass you off to Chris here. You can speak very specifically to that on how we just kind of made some authentication changes. So go ahead, Chris.
Within the last, I would say, month, we've been gearing up to move towards Radius Active Directory authentication using our Active Directory and Radius server on site. And Meraki has been just using the built-in tools that are in the dashboard to point to our servers. Has been pretty flawless and very easy for our users to authenticate, to move, and just so we can have better security, it's a lot more control over our environment opposed to having a WAP2 just regular password to let anybody on. So that we're going to be for authenticating. We're authenticating our staff and our teachers of the academy. As far as our students go, our students can use our guest Wi-Fi, our guest SSID that we have deployed, and with that, we have that restricted. We do some pretty good traffic shaping. Have some nice traffic shaping rules on it, so they can't talk to any other devices. They can't really play games. They can't do much of anything on it except for do some basic web browsing and things like that, just to protect the.
I was just I don't mean to interrupt Chris, but we're really getting to the point where we can fully leverage the capability of the Meraki Wi-Fi, and Meraki is really known as a wireless company, so that's what I'm finding out, and so there's no really the limit to what we can do is we haven't seen it yet. We don't see the limits. All kinds of good ideas come through with how do we want to manage the students? How do we want to manage specific facility devices that rely on Wi-Fi? And so just the versatility and the capability of this is it's almost ridiculous. So what else can I say? I mean, I don't want to gush too much, but this is a really powerful tool for us to assert control over our domain and over our separate networks.
No, that's fantastic. And I've seen a few questions coming in about the config that you have, and there's some notes there. But I think I'd like to leave some of that discussion for the demo when we go actually and look at some of those policies. But something you mentioned just a moment ago was kind of how to take some of these tools and apply them to restrict the activities that folks might be doing on the network, for example, gaming or peer-to-peer. So I can imagine, especially with savvier, tech-savvy students, some of them might be bringing in their own kind of MiFi router or Wi-Fi router from home. And can you talk a little bit about how you're keeping an eye on that in terms of managing rogue threats?
So we have one air marshal deployed here as of right now, and with a few more to be deployed on our different areas of our campus. Our campus does consist of a 3,500 seat auditorium. Plus, on the other side, we have a three-story office building. Two of those stories contain, actually, two of those are mostly academy, with the third story being offices. So we have a very big building. And with our air marshal running up here on the third floor, it's been able to capture and shut down some of our rogue APs that pop up. And it's been very successful at finding them and shutting them down and keeping people off. So, which has been very helpful and very comforting to know that we have a device running that's also protecting our wireless system, and having that air running has been incredible.
It saves us from having to try to be the eyes in the sky all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Tony's here now. Tony just rolled in. So Tony Molina is on board and available.
Great. Well, welcome, Tony. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the phrase air marshal, the name air marshal refers to the integrated wireless intrusion detection and prevention. And with earlier models of Meraki access points, you could take one and convert it to be a full-time air marshal. With newer models, they actually include a dedicated radio that performs those functions in addition to the other radios that are actually serving clients and passing traffic as normally done.
Yeah.
Now I can imagine that even if people are using the network, they're probably trying to see what apps that they can, what apps are allowed, and of those that are allowed, downloading data, and typically in K-12 environments can be, they can have quite an impact, let's say. So what are you using to monitor and take control of that?
Well, we're definitely making use of the layer 7 application monitoring like you were just talking about, and you guys have probably already brushed over this. Forgive me for dropping into the game a little late, but our security camera stuff has been a big issue. And so in discussing the bandwidth hogs like you're talking about there, we've used the layer 7 because obviously it identifies the application, it identifies the ports, and so that easily allows us to designate, okay, that's a security camera, we can segment it off to this portion of the network or whatever. So security stuff, in addition to just identifying the kind of traffic, as you mentioned, we have the academy, and I wouldn't say there's a few tech savvy students. I would say most of them are tech savvy. So it's almost
fair enough.
Yeah, almost this constant, you know, be on guard from the academy kind of mentality.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the security portion of it, because we do have a slide to share on that, because it's quite an impressive system that you have there. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in terms of cameras and recording and stuff like that?
Well, because we're such a large church, and Chris mentioned that we seat 3,500 per service. Obviously, we're not running that high every time, but even if we're running at 80%, you multiply that times 5 services, we're looking at anywhere between 15 and 20,000 bodies coming through the building any day. So we have hopefully enough cameras to monitor the high traffic areas, just because with that volume of people, you're going to get a good handful of crazy in time. So we just, you know, we got to keep an eye on things. That, of course, means a huge load on the network. By far, they pass more data, probably 10 times more data than the data portion of our network. And
All video all the time.
What's that?
All video all the time.
Correct, and it's all got to be archived as well. So there's also storage issues, but yeah, we use this to see if we're basically watching the dashboard to see if a camera isn't tuned correctly. We get higher utilization from one camera than the rest of the pack. So we tune accordingly based on what the dashboard tells us on the statistics, the amount of data, the amount of, we can even tell during peak times if it's recording, say, from 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning when there's nobody here, and see if there's high utilization. And again, you know, if we were to just reference the camera or the digital video recording systems, we wouldn't be able to see that because it's already passed and the data's passed through, and there's no way to monitor it real time or historically, which is kind of the key feature, being able to look back and see what did what when.
Right, and somebody asked here, this is not directly related to the network, but since we're on this topic right now, how are you archiving the video?
We've got kind of a server farm, if you will, of digital video recording DVR servers. They're not exactly clustered in the strictest technical sense of the term, but they are sort of sharing resources. And so it's just individual hard drives hanging off of half a dozen or so servers, but that's also in the process of upgrading. And part of the upgrade has come as a direct result of what the analytics have told us out of the dashboard.
Great. And then I'd just like to touch on one other thing that that Brian mentioned near the beginning, and that was about moving from a nearly entirely Windows-based environment to now a nearly entirely Apple-based environment. And there are many reasons that you chose to do that. You know, one of them being taking advantage of some of the Apple technology that's enabled by Bonjour. So can you talk a little bit about how you've enabled that at scale throughout the campus?
So we have roughly about 95% of our staff across all campuses, and right now we have about 5 are running Mac. And with our legacy system, a lot of the neat features about Apple were kind of being sort of squashed a little bit, where we couldn't really see other devices, we couldn't use Apple TVs at all. And in our environment, that became a pretty important piece of technology for our conference rooms, for people to be able to play mirror to a display in a conference room so they can show their presentations and use it however they want to use it. And so with our legacy system, that was pretty much out of the question. So, and with Meraki having Bonjour forwarding has been an incredible tool that we rely on every day to be able to use our use our Apple devices, whether it be an iPhone, iPad, or a computer. It's been very tremendous in helping, or having Meraki as our backbone has been very tremendous in allowing us to be able to use.
Yeah, it just works. It just works for us, and that's what we love. It's not a mystery to figure it out. I mean, we had our fill of mysteries trying to get positive control of a legacy network that was full of non-enterprise configurations, and so Apple works. We're here. We don't have a technical preference. You get that battle between PC and Mac. You know, we've kind of eliminated that here, and our preference is that it worked. And you know, different staff members have different needs and have different their own preferences. So how do we have you know, a platform or a network that's what's the word I'm looking for? It's just kind of agnostic enough. I can't believe I've said agnostic. Agnostic enough to where everybody can leverage what they need off of it, and it works with them. And so, as we pioneer our way forward for big churches and leverage emergent technology to innovate new solutions for our staff, this is a platform that doesn't limit us, and it doesn't non-proprietary. If I can even say that, I guess it's not. It's Meraki proprietary, which works for us, and I don't see how it could not work for everybody. So we're dreaming of a Meraki world. And you know, and we have a saying here, Tony and I and Chris, we think in pictures, and so when we have questions, we diagram it, we draw a picture, we're on the whiteboard, we're on, you know, whatever it is we're going to do. And that helps us make decisions. So we balance those pictures that we draw for ourselves based upon what we know and what we can see through the analytics on the dashboard, and the performance of these of Meraki appliances and devices, and the devices that rely upon those for communication. It just works together. We don't need to have, you know, our CCNA in order to accomplish a network effort. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely you know, one thing that I think many people see with Apple technology is that it just you turn it on and it works, and so that's what we've tried to do with supporting the Bonjour features in that specific case. I do want to make sure we have a little bit of time to go into the dashboard. But first, definitely want to thank the three of you for sharing a little bit about your deployment and your configuration, your topology, and so on to the rest of the audience. We definitely appreciate that, and there are a few questions that have come in about the specific policies and the config and where you have your APs placed. So I think maybe the best way to go through some of those is to dive into the dashboard, and I'll pull up the dashboard login page, and thank you for allowing us to share your network with the audience.
Certainly, I'm glad to share.
And we'll start off here at the organization overview. This is just a page where we can see the different networks that are part of the environment or the deployment, including Wi-Fi networks, as you see here, firewall, thrift store Wi-Fi, and you can see that they're all green. That means that they're, of course, healthy. We can dive in to see where the networks are deployed across Southern California and the San Diego area, and then we can click into go into a particular one that we choose. You want to pick one that we can dive into that is you find pretty interesting?
Our the Rock Firewall network, either the appliance or the switch side of it, that's the gist of our main user base, including the Academy traffic.
Okay, so this is the MX that we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, here we see the status of the device itself. We can see there's a WAN link, and it looks like you're taking advantage of some SFP Plus and SFP, so pretty nice connectivity there to the LAN side of things.
That was
and
a
then
upgrade of ours.
recent upgrade. Yeah, very lucky. And we can see information about its connectivity and the network usage over time. And in fact, a real-time graph, you must have a pretty wide bandwidth connection too, because some of these peaks are going pretty high there, up approaching 120 megabits per second.
Yeah, we kind of have interesting scenario to where we have to have a lot of bandwidth, not just because it's cool, although it is. We push a lot of video to the remote sites. So we have, you guys probably already covered this. So the bandwidth requirements are actually pretty extensive, which means that that's actually what necessitated a 10 gigabit upgrade for those SFP modules, is just
Right.
because we have such high utilization in and out that we had a pretty significant bottleneck right at the LAN choke point. So we were trying to open that up, and that's why we have that. So yeah, we've got 250 megabit circuit.
Very nice. Someone actually asked a few minutes ago how you're connecting those sites together. What kind of technology do you use to do that?
Oh, we're using with the Metro E point-to-point for each site. We got it for the main campuses. So when we say sites, some are just sites like a thrift store, and then you'll see the Impact 195. That's more of a discipleship school. It's just down in Mission Valley. But the main sites are the remote campuses. So there's one up in San Marcos, which is about 40 miles north, and then there's one about 20, 30 miles east in El Cajon. So that's our East County and North County sites. So those are church venues also. So we'll have congregants go there, and we push a stream, a live stream, if you will, to a very high definition, high quality video. And so it's about an hour. It's been an hour's worth of video, and so we'll have worship before, and they'll have messages, and then they'll have other things that happen. So there's local teams there, but then everybody will clear the stage. The screen drops down, and then we commence with the high quality video and audio. We're connected to those. It's actually it's a teaching. What's it called?
Message?
No, the Clark.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just anyway. It's very high quality. So
Yeah.
we have 100 meg to each of those sites, and we're probably using 40 meg, I'd say, 40 to 50 meg to push from here to there.
And because that's Metro E, we can make use of multicast, so we do it pretty extensively. Multicast with a high level of QoS to monitor the video traffic.
Right. Yeah, that's a very nice setup that you have there. In terms of some of the content filtering, so you're configuring that over here. Let's just have a look at that. These are basically category-based things that you're going to block, and then if you want to blacklist or whitelist particular patterns that you might be allowing on the network, we just enter them here, and then this is basically doing it for all the sites, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a central point of internet in and out for everyone, and they have redundant internet links so that should this go down, they still have access to the internet. One thing I wanted to mention real quick though is because you're looking at the content filtering portion of it, some of that stuff is actually turned off at the moment, and it's because a couple months back we actually had a weird, seemingly a hardware issue with our previous MX, and what could have been a catastrophic issue where this thing went down and then we had customer service or whatever. That was absolutely not the case. We had next day replacement, and then the reconfiguration took literally 20 minutes because we just plugged in the IP to it, slapped in the new device, and this thing has been bulletproof. And the only reboots it's had since then is because I've done it manually, needing to move equipment around or whatever. But like I said, what was kind of a huge ordeal turned into really an easy fix, and that was largely in part to the customer service, the engineering team that handled us, and just top to bottom service.
Yeah, what I couldn't really say enough about is that the replacement firewall showed up. Like Tony said, we gave it an IP, racked it up, gave it the IP, and then plugged it in. and the firewall configuration was in the cloud, so it configured itself from the cloud, and we just watched it do its magic. And
With jaws on the floor.
Yeah. And all of us were, like Tony said, jaws on the floor with how fast the firewall going from no configuration to being operational in just a matter of minutes was being back up. We were all floored.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Actually, I'm not going to, of course, make any changes to your network, but I just would like to show people what that would look like if this is, for example, the previous firewall. You would go and remove it from the network. It would remove the device, the physical device, from the network, and then the dashboard would prompt you to add a new device if you'd like to replace it. If you're, shutting down an entire site, you wouldn't replace it. And then you just add a new device, add the serial number, and all these settings that we were looking at in the previous page, for example, with content filtering, the configuration for routes and what have you, those would all simply be applied. The new device would be turned on, connect to the Meraki cloud. It would identify itself by its serial number. The dashboard would know that you just entered that device's serial number to be added to this network, and then it would send the configurations. Someone asked briefly if I could just go back to the content filtering page, just have a look at that. Our blocked website categories, and there's a defined list of I think 80 or so categories that you can choose from to add additional categories. Of course, behind all these categories, there are billions of URLs that are blocked. And if you want to individually override whether blacklist or whitelist, that's what this URL blocking section below does. There have been quite a few questions on Wi-Fi, so I do want to spend a moment to go over to one of the Wi-Fi networks. Do you have a particular one to choose from here? North County or East County or whichever one?
Point Loma, the PL Wi-Fi?
Yep. So a few people are asking how, kind of a little bit about how you've actually deployed and installed them, and if any are acting as mesh repeaters. So let's just go to the list and have a look at these 53 APs that we have. And from this view, we can see which ones are online, which ones are offline, have never been connected. You can see some are outdoor, some are indoor. There's the air marshal access point that we were talking about earlier. I don't see any that are actually being used in mesh configuration here.
No.
Yeah, it looks like the outdoor one even is also wired in. All of the APs do support mesh, so if you have an area that's hard to wire, then you can certainly take advantage of the mesh. Someone asked, how far apart do you have the APs deployed? So that's kind of a general question, but maybe if you pick some of the classroom type environments, you could talk about how you've actually mounted them, how far apart there.
It kind of varies. You want to show them the map?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
We have all of our APs on the maps under the
Map and floor plan.
map and floor plans.
Yeah,
You
let's
can
have a look
actually
at that.
visually see the spacing between them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll zoom in here.
Yes. And then we have our area on we have our actual floor plans loaded into here, so you
Yep.
can look at our.
I'll switch over to that. So there's a Google map, and then you can see they've uploaded some floor plans. I'll just try to pick a reasonable in between here so we can see where they're deployed.
So that's probably, I mean, it has to be at 40 feet at least between those there, 40 to 50 feet on that particular floor plan. So it's basically 3 hallways that run north and south, and then, we're populated on east to west that way.
Yeah.
And really, this wasn't a thought out plan. We kind of eyeballed it based upon a previous setup with our previous Wi-Fi system, and just we wanted to populate it and saturate it the best we can for the academy. So this works really well for us. We may not even need this many APs where they are, but it works for us. We're going to leave them in place, and as we get more familiar, become more familiar with how to fully exploit each AP, we can tune them as we need them. I think the only challenge we run into is in the high density areas, which it's really not a challenge, it's just knowing enough and having that right partner to come and say, yeah, this is what you're going to need in order to achieve this. And in fact, the partner that we're using, they've told us this is an awesome effort, especially with our sanctuary with the 3,500 people. That's pretty dense, and so they've kind of rolled their sleeves up and drooled a little bit over having a project like this to sink their teeth into and really get their heads around and figure out what is the best solution here, because especially with the new, these access points are MR16s and some MR24s is what we have. We're really interested to see what they're going to the solution or the recommendations they're going to come up with, because we really want to start snapping up some of these MR34s. The new ones are 34s and the 26s. So we can't wait to see what this is going to look like.
Yeah, we're very excited, and ultimately we want to be able to have the best environment for students, for our people here on Sunday, and for staff, and we just want it to work. We want people to get on, have plenty of bandwidth that they need to be able to do what they need to do, and for us to kind of not really be a hindrance of getting, whether it's church-related work done or a parent needing to, with a kid needing to watch a YouTube video sitting in another part of the building, not on Sunday, but whether it's in our lobby or someplace else, just to be able to have their child be entertained for a few minutes while they're meeting with somebody or something else.
And that speaks to, like, in the sanctuary with the 3,500 seat sanctuary, the congregants, the church has a couple of apps of its own, and they've been doing polling lately. They've been doing voting, real-time voting and stuff, and reading up on stage and being displayed on the monitors. And we've been pretty successful. Not everybody can get on, and experience isn't super fantastic, but we want to be able to leverage that because we have a high-tech congregation. It's a lot of young people, but there's some tech-savvy older folks, and so that really drives the church experience here, is the technical aspect of it, along with the message that the senior pastor gives. He's a fantastic guy, and really speaks to people. So I mean, we have the best of both worlds. We got a good technology and a great message and a great culture here. So we're really interested to see how this shakes out in the next year or so.
Super. There are a couple of questions that have come in around some of the screens that we've shown. I'll just go through and answer a few of them. Someone asked about what kind of floor plan can be uploaded. The dashboard accepts many different kinds or file types for floor plans, so you don't have to create the floor plan in the dashboard. You can just upload a PDF or GIF or GIF or JPEG, bitmap, whatever you might have on hand, and then drag and drop your APs onto the map. Someone else asked about.
I think it takes CAD.
Perhaps CAD also, yes. I don't remember the full list, but there are definitely more than a handful. Someone else asked about the content filtering and if the databases or the lists are how are they updated. Actually, that works through the cloud. So the appliance will, as frequently as every hour, depending on if there are updates or not, will download updates to the content filtering database or lists, so that the IT team doesn't have to go in there and go to some website, download a file definition package, and then upload it into the dashboard. It's just all automated and happening in the background. Someone else asked about switches. We're running a little bit out of time, Maybe I can just switch over to any of the switches here, just so you can quickly see
Just
what that list looks like.
go back to the one that says Rock Firewall. The switches are actually in that network.
Okay, great. Indeed, they are. Here we see 24 switches. We see, I think you mentioned MS42, which is a 48 port, MS42P, 48 port PoE switch. You can see the model name on the right. And we can sort, say, by a very active switch in terms of number of ports used. And then here we'll see the details, similar to what we might see on an access point, but of course tailored to show us the information about a switch, like which ports are supplying PoE, which VLANs are accessible, which ones are trunk ports, which one might be an uplink port, any type of connectivity info, if there's downtime, for example. And that way you can manage the switches as well as the security appliance and the APs, as we just saw in the previous page, from one dashboard. And you can even go in here and say, okay, this is a fast Ethernet 100 meg connection on port 21. Looks like this port is connected to an MR66. That's an outdoor AP, but the gigabit link failed, so the speed downshifted. So that's good to know. Then you might investigate, say, the Ethernet cable and see if something might be amiss there. So a lot of visibility into the switch infrastructure as well. I do want to say we are running out of time, so I want to say thank you to the three of you for going your deployment. It looks like you have a fantastic setup. Indeed, many people would love to sink their teeth into the setup you have running here, so thanks for sharing it with everyone.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Pablo.
I do want to quickly just go over the Meraki product lineup. We've talked a bit about a few of these. The MR wireless access points that are available in indoor and outdoor models, both value priced and top of the line with 802.11 AC. So it's 6 models in total. And everything that we saw from the Wi-Fi aspect is included in a single license. You don't have to add additional things for guest access or traffic shaping or application firewall and so on. The MX security appliance, looked at one of the larger ones, the MX400. They actually have a range of models that scale from small branches all the way up to larger sites like the one we looked at. And they include things like the content filtering, internet link bonding if you want to have multiple links with redundancy, built-in firewall, traffic shaping and application blocking, and so on. And the switches we looked at very briefly right at the end. We do have a full line of access and aggregation layer switches, layer 2, layer 3, with PoE, without PoE, and in 8, 24, and 48 port configurations, all of which are managed, of course, over the web. And we didn't really talk about Systems Manager, but it's our cloud-based device management that controls iOS, Android, Mac, and PC. And these are often for school-owned devices, but can also and often used for BYOD deployments. It allows you to set restrictions and security policies, deploy software and apps, and of course track your inventory. And if you are curious and want to find out a little bit more and actually get some of the gear in your hands and sync your that, we do have a free evaluation program. If you'd like to try something that we've talked about today or that we showed perhaps, we will send out new gear to you. You could try it out in your school, see if it works for you. If it does, you can buy it. If it doesn't, you can simply send it back to us. And if you have any questions on how to integrate or configure, then we're happy to make tech support available too. If you want to find out more, then definitely talk to your Meraki rep or go to that link down below. So with that, I want to thank everyone for their time. We are almost at the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap it up. If you have any remaining questions, do ask your Meraki rep about it, and he or she will be happy to answer them for you. And to Tony, Chris, and Brian, thank you very much for taking some time out of your day and sharing your experiences with us and with the rest of the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.